Before 1882, Chinese laborers in the United States worked at jobs that paid less. Fearing that Chinese immigrants would lower wages, widespread violent anti-Chinese sentiment and actions occurred. Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 to curb the influx of Chinese immigration and denied citizenship to those already in this country. Nevertheless, Chinese Americans rose to take up arms when their adopted country needed them.
After the U.S. entered the war, the 14th Air Force, which carried on the nickname of the Flying Tigers, was a regular U.S. Air Force, Army Air Force unit. So people were sent there simply because they were drafted, and that's where their orders sent them.
I was picked to serve in the 407th Air Service Squadron, which is a very odd outfit. Almost half of this in my squadron is college educated. We have a PhD, a doctor. We have a well-known journalist, Bill Hoy, in the outfit. And age run 14 years old to 56 years old. At first, we didn't know what the purpose of our outfit is until they told us that we're going to China. The group that I was with, that was all Chinese American. We have a Caucasian instructor.
When we talk about the Chinese Americans who ended up going to China and became associated with the Flying Tigers, in some cases perhaps as active pilots, but more often as support troops, these people not that different from, support troops in other parts of the war theaters, except that they were especially selected for that purpose because of their language abilities and their cultural knowledge and so on. So that was something that was unique.
I took the train to Newport News, Virginia, aboard ship to Atlantic Ocean, Mediterranean, the Suez Canal, Indian Ocean, to Calcutta, India, and northern of Siam in India.
From Bombay, we were assigned to a troop train across India to Calcutta. I hate to say that, in American idea, the troop train is not even third class. It's more like a cattle car.
Early part of 1944, and then I left from San Pedro, California. We stopped off in Melbourne for overnight, and then from there we went to India. Afterward, I went to Assam area. They all gathered there. Some fly over the hump, and some drove the Burma Road. And I was one of the fortunate ones to drive the Burma Road. One of our buddies got drowned over there. At that time, I was a pretty good swimmer. So lift him up from underneath the river. I got two helpers to help me bring him up. And from there on, we went to Kunming.
Lieutenant John Young entered his second year in the China-India-Burma Theater in 1943.
At that time, the 10th Air Force didn't have enough manpower for it, and I was assigned to a flight crew carrying gasoline, bombs, ammunition, food to China, and on our return trip, carry Chinese troops still fighting in Burma. I made 9 trips over the hump, as it's called at that time, flying alone, keeping an eye on Japanese fighters because Japanese fighters still there in the air. Being young and naive, I wasn't afraid to fly the hump by myself. Remember a squadron that also flown over there where we go to Chinese restaurant. And because in India itself, we have that delicious meal. Breakfast, powder eggs. Noon we get spam. Evening we get spam. And up to this time, I can't stand spam.
One night I was on guard duty in India. I heard noises I put the flashlight on, I saw a tiger with two eyes staring at me. The bright light chased them away.
I hear the jackals running around there, howling.
Now, I have done some patching up the holes, the bullet holes, but mostly the damage is from fatigue, from flying now. Eventually it would crack. Whenever we find a crack, we would put a doubler, another sheet metal behind it and rivet it. Mostly things done by hand. So for repairing, it's kind of hard. India weather is humid. There's a lot of rain in the monsoon, a lot of mosquitoes. Quite a few had malaria. It's not much cure except time.
We were lucky we got to during the monsoon season. All of us had to wear boots because there's mud all over the place.
And we make camps, a little tent, 2 in a camp. You use your raincoat for your mattress. It's wet, it's pretty bad. But as a soldier, that's the way, you train for.
The road was cut from the mountains, and with the rain, the mountains piled back onto the roads.
My father sat down with me a couple years before he passed away and shared his diaries with me, page by page. Also, there's another line in which he talked about battle, in which the Japanese Zeros were fighting the Flying Tigers. And he was saying, our guys got 7 of them.
Being bilingual or able to speak Chinese or read Chinese, so when we hit Kunming, we were assigned to different bases.
The Chengkung airfield is about 50 miles away from Kunming.
First night we were there, we were welcomed by Japanese bombers. That time the B-29s started to come in. These are why the Japanese bombers came over.
My brother and one of his friends had to pick up a part from where he is to Kunming. A small plane crashed on our way to Kunming. I think all 3 of them is buried in Golden Gate National Park.
We were stationed in the Chinese cemetery. Some of the older Chinese, they didn't like the idea that have their campground in the cemetery, because at daytime we see burial parties come through there.
So my job mostly was to salvage the plane rather than repairing. The tooling is limited.
I think the 14th Air Force never had more than 30,000 men in it, and they're all short-handed and have to do everything. Start from scratch, aircraft repair, which is our main duty, but we also have to practically run the air bases ourselves. Also went the unpleasant job of picking up dead bodies.
I said anything about the war. It was always like, I'm seeing some beautiful countryside. And there was one letter he wrote, he goes, I'm seeing my 3rd season of rice planting in China. I don't want to see another. Because my father wrote, he goes, I'll never see Connie taking her first step.
We were servicing about 6 different air bases in China. And I was stationed in Xi'an for 6 months. We never got paid. We got cigarette, didn't smoke at that time. Go to town, find somebody and sell their cigarettes in black market, so we get Chinese currency.
I was in Burma on the way to China. A lady with a baby, they were starving. Gave them whatever food they want because they were hungry. So she gave me a rock. I brought it home, I put it in a box. I never think anything of it until I got married and my wife looked at it and she make a ring out of it, and it for a while it turned this color. It was kind of off color a while ago when I got it, but it turn this way. It's worth a lot of money now, I think.
Was far apart. We were lucky to get mail. In fact, during the time that I was in Xi'an, I never received any mail.
You know, my father's gone for 3 years. He was on rotation in June of 1945. My father coming home, we met him in Bakersfield, and I did not recognize him.
I was discharged in Camp Beale in Sacramento, got a ride back, walked into the house and surprised everybody. My mother gave away all my clothing. I have to buy clothing for myself. But I had to go through censorship, and we can't tell my parents where I am, what I'm doing, how I'm doing, am I well or not. All that is censored out. But Postal Service have a hard time catching up with us, since we're moving around so much. Yeah, I'm back, and that's the main thing. I wasn't in the infantry, I was in the Air Force. Lucky, get back.
When I first came back, I asked for a job. They don't hire Chinese. Claim as an aircraft mechanic, so I got my job at the Naval Air Station Alameda. I worked there 32 years, knowing that because you're Chinese, you have to do better than the next guy. So I work a little harder. When there is a tough job come out, I volunteer. From that, I get promotion. Retire as a planner and estimator. Kind of boost my life.
He spearheaded the campaign for memorial at St. Mary's Square to the fallen soldiers of Chinese American descent, and worked through the mayor's office, and he got it.
The quota system includes all Chinese from who live anywhere, place in the world, can come on this quota system. 105 only, which is very minimum.
The law excluding Chinese was unconstitutional, it was unjust. It was the only law ever, enacted that discriminated from citizenship by race.
The Magnuson Act of 1943 repealed the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act, but limited the number of Chinese allowed to enter the U.S. from anywhere in the world to only 105.
The younger generation think that war is glorious, but it's not. It's very hard, difficult, very filthy. I have seen enough of it. I've seen enough death, and I never care for it.